So today I'll be doing a video discussing Zeref. Now it's as simple as that. For the longest of time, I've been wanting to do a video just breaking down and looking at Zeref's character because to me personally, I definitely do think that he is one of the greatest anime villains. Yes, not just shonen, but anime villains because of how well he's written, his design, his backstory, everything about Zeref is great about him. But because he's in Fairy Tail, we know what type of stigma that Fairy Tail gets. Unless you're really a fan of Fairy Tail, a lot of people are going to dislike it, they're going to dismiss it, which it's their loss because at the end of the day, we all know how great Fairy Tail is. Like Fairy Tail fans, we know how good Fairy Tail is. And one of the main reasons why Fairy Tail is so good, at least for me personally, is because of Zeref. Now, this is going to be a video of me just diving in and talking about everything from his past to what we've seen up to now and why I believe he is the greatest anime villain, or at least one of the greatest anime villains. So without further ado, let's go and get into it. Now, let's start off with Zeref's past. We already know that Zeref, he is the older brother of Natsu, and we know that Zeref's family, they were killed off by dragons. We know during a battle or an invasion by the dragons, basically, that was when Natsu's family was killed off, or Zeref's family, I should say, was killed off. And once Zeref's family got killed off, we know that obviously he tried to revive Natsu using lots of different systems. We know that the R system that was shown way back when, I believe it was the third season or one of the third major arcs in Fairy Tail, that was when the R system was first used. That didn't work, and we've seen him try to revive him using black magic and everything, but ultimately it didn't work. None of the regular reviving systems or work, and we saw what life Zeref went to in order to bring back his brother. We saw that basically he tried to bend the laws of nature, and that's what ended up getting him cursed. Now, when we talk about the god Ank'Sram curse, or the god Ank'Sram, I don't know how you pronounce it, to this day, this is still one of the most confusing powers in Fairy Tail just because it hasn't been elaborated, but at the same time, it has been. But when it comes to Zeref, we don't really know too much about it. But like I was saying, with this Zeref's past, we know that he obviously kept trying to bring back Natsu over and over again until he finally decided to make him out of E&D. We know that he created Natsu using his black magic and using the body of his little brother to basically make him into one of the strongest demons known as E&D. So that was the first thing that we noticed when it came to Zeref's past. He actually was able to revive his little brother, but because of that, he ended up getting cursed. So it was kind of a win-lose situation for Zeref, but at the same time, he still took it head on. Now, we've seen that even after that, one of the main reasons why I like Zeref too is because he was so connected with the Fairy Tail story. Now, I don't know if you guys were following my old channel. If you guys were, before I moved to this channel, I actually made a video saying what if Igneal and Zeref knew each other. So that's why I was actually super hyped up when this finally got confirmed, because we actually found out that Zeref and Igneal, I don't want to say they were friends, but they were at least acquaintances, because we know that Zeref, he's the one who actually dropped Natsu off to Igneal, and we know how much Zeref loved Natsu. So my opinion is he would not leave Natsu with somebody who he didn't trust, aka he wouldn't just leave him with a complete stranger. He wouldn't leave him with somebody who he thought would leave Natsu harmed. So that's why he left him with Igneal, and he had Igneal teach him Dragon Slayer magic. You know, the rest is history with Natsu and Igneal. But the fact that Zeref knew Igneal, Natsu's quote-unquote dad, just goes to show you how connected he was to the story. But on top of that, Zeref knew Anna too. Now, I'm not going to go too deep into details about who Anna is, because there's a lot of anime onlys, and I know that they haven't seen anything from Anna, so I'm trying not to spoil them. But let's just say that Anna, she's going to be a very, very important person into the series. And we've seen that Zeref, he was connected with Anna too. We saw that pretty much they were responsible for creating the gate that they used during the Grand Magic game, the little time travel gate. Zeref, he was also responsible for helping Anna with that. And once the anime onlys, once you guys figure out who Anna is, then yeah, you'll see why this is such a big deal. But Zeref, he was linked to both of the main character. He was linked to both of the main characters' ancestors, which goes to show you that as a villain, he had a very, very important role into the series. Now, let's talk about the second half, because with Zeref, there's really two halves of him. No pun intended, but there's really two halves of him. The first half that he did stuff pre-story, and kind of like the second half was stuff that he was doing like mid-story. And the mid-story stuff that I'm talking about is him dealing with the curse. Now, we know that Zeref's first time really being seen was on Tenro Island, and that's when we really first learned about the curse. Now, the god Ankh-Saram curse, obviously we know that it has cursed Zeref to a point where, number one, he's immortal, so like he can't ever die unless obviously it was E&D who killed him. But then number two, anything that came around him would end up dying. Anything that came close to him would end up dying that wasn't one of his demons, or if he didn't have control over the power at the time, he could end up accidentally killing people. So Zeref, the whole time he was on Tenro Island, he knew that he couldn't really get close to anybody else except for Natsu, obviously, because Natsu was E&D, which is one of the reasons why I shout out to Hiro Mashima, because he did a great job at showing foreshadowing with Natsu being E&D during Tenro Island when Natsu was the only person who could touch Zeref. So that was a huge moment of foreshadowing for Zeref's character. But on top of that, we saw on Tenro Island that he didn't really get too involved when it came to messing with Fairy Tail. He was really only there to protect Fairy Tail, because we even seen that Hades, after they were defeated, Zeref still ended up killing them. So that just goes to show you that Zeref, he was kind of protecting Fairy Tail, but at the same time he wasn't. So that was kind of like a huge thing when it came to Zeref's character too, that he still wanted to make sure Natsu was safe, you know, up until they had their final little meeting. But even after that, we see that Zeref is actually the creator of the Alvarez Empire. Now, the Alvarez Empire, we know, is basically the strongest military empire group in the whole series. Like Makarov, we saw that he was begging Natsu, please, please, please. He was like, don't go and fight anybody from the Alvarez Empire, which is understandable, because had Natsu or them tried to fight up against Brandish, you guys saw what happened last episode. Like, there's no reason for me to explain what would have happened had they tried to fight them. So Makarov, he knew how strong the Alvarez Empire was. That is true. And we knew that Zeref, he was the emperor of the Alvarez Empire. And we actually found out that Zeref, the only reason why he made the Alvarez Empire was to battle against Acnologia. Now, the reason why this is such a big thing is because Acnologia was looked at as the biggest, baddest villain. Everybody pretty much feared him. I'm going to do a video discussing and breaking down Acnologia's character later on too, because I think he's also one of the greatest villains in Fairy Tail, and he's one of the main reasons why I stuck around with Fairy Tail. Shout out to Acnologia. But no, we know that the Alvarez Empire was pretty much known as the strongest military force in the whole pretty much continent. So with that being said, we know that Zeref was the one who created it, and he mainly created that to fight Acnologia. So that goes to show you how strong Acnologia truly is. The fact that Zeref had 12 different shields, I'm using that with air quotes, you guys can't see that, but 12 different shields to protect him from Acnologia and to fight against Acnologia, including one of them being the strongest wizard from Fior, just goes to show you that Zeref, he was a mastermind when it came to actually, you know, plotting out his things, whether it was bringing back Natsu or whether it was being a war genius. That's one thing that I liked about Zeref too. Now, let's talk about his love life, because with Fairy Tail, the one thing that I do have to say that Hiro Mashima does better than any other mangaka is basically showing relationships. Because with series that are big like Dragon Ball or even like Naruto, they don't really, when the main character eventually ends up having like a child or something, it feels kind of forced. Now, I will say with Naruto that they did a better job than what Dragon Ball did with the whole Goku and Chi-Chi thing, because like, let's be honest, Goku, he only cares about fighting. So every time he had a child, I was like, it's kind of, I can see it, but there was never really any emotion. Like, same thing with Naruto and Hinata. Me personally, I don't think that relationship got developed at all up until the final movie. So that is why I believe that Natsu and Lucy is actually one of the better developed. Natsu and Lucy, I meant to say Zeref and Mavis are actually one of the more developed relationships in the series, which is why I do like it, because that was one of the first times we got to see main villain. I guess you could call Zeref the main villain. We got to see him actually get his relationship actually, fleshed out and everything. And the story between Mavis and Zeref was one of the most saddest stories, finding out that they both got cursed. And even when they tried to get together and basically fall in love, Mavis ended up dying too. So Zeref, that was the second time he had to experience a loved one, because we know that he's seen his parents and his brother died. Then he's seen the woman who he loved end up dying right in front of him because of him. All of that really was because the god Ankh-Sram cursed, which is why I want to discuss that. And after finding out that Zeref was cursed, we saw that he still had to deal with all that. We saw that he was basically created a split personality. And to this day, us fairy tale fans, we still don't know if the god Ankh-Sram curse is, like, if god Ankh-Sram will actually be revealed to us or not. But regardless of the fact, we do know that Zeref, he did create basically havoc because he had the god Ankh-Sram curse this whole time. And the last thing that I want to discuss about Zeref is his goals. Now, unlike a lot of other villains, we've seen that Zeref, he was actually able to accomplish his goal, in which he was able to obtain Fairy Heart. Now, obviously, he wasn't really able to do much with it, but he was still able to obtain Fairy Heart, so we have to give him props with that. And the last thing that I want to discuss about Zeref was his possible reincarnation. Now, we seen at the end of Fairy Tail, pretty much Hiro Mashima was hinting at Zeref and Mavis being reincarnated, and basically we found out that Lucy, she was pretty much dreaming it all, but they did say that she got drunk, and they're leaving out moments. They were implying that all that stuff could have happened, but Lucy might have just gotten too drunk to remember all of it, to remember the rest of the night, actually, because they showed Natsu carrying her and all that stuff. That was pretty funny. But Hiro Mashima threw it out there, the possibility of Zeref still being reincarnated. And me personally, I don't think it's true, just because we see what it took in order for someone to get brought back to life. We saw what Zeref had to go through in order to bring Natsu back to life. So unless God Ankh-Sram won't just decide to have a change of heart and he just wanted to forgive Mavis and Zeref, then I don't think they've been reincarnated. But I do like the idea that those two will be able to be together even now that they both passed away. And after explaining all of this about Zeref, him basically being the reason why Natsu's alive, him being the reason why Natsu has Dragon Slayer magic, him being the reason why Natsu joined Fairy Tail. Hell, Zeref, he was the reason why Agnologia pretty much came out of hiding and started and got involved into the real world stuff because of Zeref. We know that Zeref, he formed an army that was, even though we knew that Agnologia could have pretty much beaten the whole Spriggan 12 by itself, because Zeref did form that big of a threat, that's what made Agnologia come out of hiding. So a lot of things that happened in Fairy Tail was because of Zeref, and the fact that his character is so well written and so well done makes me actually appreciate him. And this is why I had to drop a video discussing and carefully explaining why Zeref is one of the greatest villains in all of anime. Comment what you guys think down below. Subscribe if you haven't. Peace out.